All right, y'all, thank you guys for coming today. This is going to be the first installment of Coyote Chat. We haven't done this since 2020. So we're really excited to have it back in person and through Zoom as well. So we should have some people joining us online. So here today, starting us off, we have Professor Matt Jones, a man who needs no introduction. So take it away, sir.
All right. So Michael has informed me that the subject of my talk is going to be what about my college experience do I think is valuable to, or could be valuable to you guys? And obviously the first answer to that question is, well, my college experience produced me, and that is incredibly valuable to all of you. So, but I guess that's not an overly satisfactory answer, perhaps. So let me expand upon that. And I think that's actually, I think that probably to me is the best question to ask in these kind of Coyote Chats. In terms of our subject area of expertise, if you've been in my classes, you've heard, and I'm always willing to talk about it. But in terms of the college experience of the people who came before you, that could be insanely invaluable, And so the first thing I want to mention is my college experience started in 1994. I'm not just saying that so you can remember that I'm really old, but also because my college experience started in 1994, but I did not graduate with a bachelor's until technically 2001, spring 2001. So I went to Moore Park Community College, which is right now primarily in the news because one of its professors killed a Jewish man in a protest. So, but it actually deserves a bit more credit than just being tarred and feathered with that particular, factoid. It was considered at the time during the 1990s the best community college in the entire nation, and it was actually pretty good. Now, with all community colleges, and you guys probably know this as well, even here, the professor can really make a difference to the value of the education. I had a professor my Western Civ professor who had PTSD from Vietnam, and he primarily talked about what was then called the WWF and Beavis and Butthead and other sort of things, and I got almost nothing out of his lectures. I learned almost everything from the textbook. I had to read the textbook. It actually forced me to read the textbook because I couldn't get much out of his lecture. And at the time, you could actually do all of his extra credit activities, which were things like going to medieval times, going to the Holocaust Museum, going to the Natural History Museum, and all these other sorts of museums. It would cost you about $140 for all of it, and you could get a B without ever taking an exam or as long as you went to all the classes. So you had to go to all the classes so that he had an audience for his kind of discussions of the WWF and wrestling and Beavis and Butthead and others. But you didn't have to really take the exams. I couldn't handle that. So I read, first of all, it was money. But second of all, I said, I can't do that. I'm not an athlete. I actually care about education. So I can't do that. I'm not one of these people. Yes, I ridiculed the athletes. I'm sorry if you're an athlete, but you deserve a little bit of ridicule and you freaking know it. So actually athletes, it's really hard on athletes, what's expected of them. And I get that, definitely, but you still deserve a little ridicule. So at any rate, I had that professor. I had my international relations professor who spent at least half of every class time talking about conspiracy theories about the first Iraq War in the 1990s and about how we won by bulldozing the Iraqis alive, and how he would go on vacation to American embassies in third world countries and try and spot CIA agents. So obviously you had bad professors in which I learned very, very little. But there was one professor, there was actually multiple professors. There was 3 professors at the college, one of whom was my American history professor, and he was spectacular, the best professor I ever had. And he cared about the subject, he cared about whether we learned, he focused on us as individuals, he challenged me. He didn't bring education down, he didn't pander, he didn't bring kind of the process of learning down to the level of making it easy for the student because he just wanted an audience or a paycheck or anything else. He looked like somebody who actually cared about the damn subject material and cared whether we learned about it. And that just kind of lit up my mind. It lit up my consciousness. It signaled to me what actual learning and education in the academy can really be all about. And it convinced me of this, that if I was going to continue with my educational journey, I wasn't going to do so for just a piece of paper, for just a degree. Because I was struggling to be motivated. Part of the reason it took me 5 years to get through community college is because I was going to community college because that's what you're supposed to do. Because you just kind of go to go. Because what else am I going to do, right? It's like, and especially back then, in your mind, it was kind of like either you go to a 4-year school, you go to a community college, or you go to the workforce and end up becoming a manager at McDonald's at some point in time, or you join the military. And I had recruiters breathing down my neck, kind of selling me the way that recruiters do on everything, giving you, the military can help you achieve all of your dreams. I'm like, yeah, but I have to be around people like you to do so. So actually, the one recruiter who almost got me was a really cool guy. I really, really liked him. But the problem is I knew too many people of my friends who went into the military, and it wasn't for me, right? First of all, you know me. I need tenure. I don't have tenure in the military. I would speak up, I would speak back, I would be snarky, and I would essentially be, I would be Private Pile in Full Metal Jacket. So that's just not going to work. So I was going to college. It's like, but what's the point? It's like, I'm just getting a degree. I'm going to go spend just a little bit of money in community college, but then go and spend more money to get a bachelor's degree to do something I don't even know what I'm going to do. It's like, well, and so people kept telling me, well, what are you good at? What are you interested in? I'm like, that's the problem. I'm interested in history. And like, how many of you have at some point been like, I am actually kind of interested in history, right? The whole kind of viral video or thing about asking guys how often they think about the Roman Empire, right? So how often have you, you're like, I'm kind of interested in history, but what's the problem with that? Oh, what are you going to do with that? And I thought the same thing. What am I going to do with that? Like, well, the answer is frequently teach, correct? It's like, well, I don't want to teach. Because first of all, I'd have to teach people like me, and that just sounds like agony. And it's like teachers, dime a dozen, you don't get paid that much. So I tried and do almost anything else. Computer animation, CGI was just coming online at the time. And so I was looking into doing that. I was looking into doing sales. I was looking doing all these things that I thought, this is going to give me a paycheck. I'm going to get paid more for this. And there's nothing wrong with that mentality. There absolutely isn't. Most of American life has been spent by people who did jobs that got them the paycheck that they needed so that they could feed their family, support their children, and support their community. And that is one of the most honorable things you can do in life, and I will never, ever say don't do that. As a matter of fact, one of the things I learned is, even though you're going to see that to a certain extent, I did chase something meaningful in terms of my degree, is this whole concept of being sure you're passionate about your work is, I don't know if I could say this, but to a certain extent it is very romanticized bullshit. It just is. The truth is that not very many of you are going to be able to be passionate about your work. You're just not. One of the key things that problems we have is that fields like anthropology are massively impacted because CSI and other things came out and everybody's like, that's work I could be passionate about. Things like, website design and others, people like, that's something I could be passionate about. But there's so many people chasing that passion that the pay for it and the job opportunities are this much compared to this many people chasing it. You can't get around the fact that the economy wins, and it always will. And you could fight against that fact, and you could say, well, screw it. Why should I even care? But of course you should care. The truth is you don't get to control the entire fate of your life. You just don't. And we all kind of know that, which is why anybody who's a fan of The Lord of the Rings loves the line that Gandalf says to Frodo, right? When Frodo says, I wish I was born at a different time. He says, so do all people who are born into hard times. But we don't get to make that choice. The only choice we have is the choice to what we will do in the times that we live in. Same thing. What's your choice is what are you going to do in the economy that you currently live in? And please hear me on this. Your job is not your identity. Your job is not your happiness. Your job is not the thing that you need to be passionate about or your life's going to suck. It just isn't. I'm doing a job that I absolutely adore. I'm passionate about it. Why? Because I'm passionate about history and politics? Nah, I'm just really, really good at it. What am I passionate about? Turns out I'm passionate about the thing that I tried to avoid early on. Passionate about teaching. Passionate about education. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I actually got this job 11 years ago. I'm 48 years old. 11 years ago, I was 37, and I finally figured out that that's what I was really passionate about. Sometimes it takes a while. But your job isn't your identity. Don't even get me started on this whole concept that your sexuality is your identity. That's even worse bullshit. You are a much more complex person than your job, than what you do for earn a paycheck and who you're attracted to. Always remember that. Why should you get an education? The first part is not to get a degree to get a better job. I get that. That's very practical, and I'm not gonna knock any of you for doing it. But you should get an education because you're just going to improve yourself as a person. You're going to be a better person. You're going to like yourself more. You're going to have more confidence, and your education will not be wasted. I promise you. I promise you it will not be wasted. How many of you are thinking or fearing that you might get a degree and then you end up doing a job that has nothing to do with your degree at the end of it? Yeah? Yeah, all of you should be, right? Because you all know that the economy is very impacted in a lot of these degrees. Listen, I've been doing this for a long time. I've had multiple students. One of my most, shall we say, promising students. She's not doing anything. She ended up going and getting her degree in religious studies. And she was being recruited by graduate schools. What's she doing now? She's in Scotland trying to start a music career. Why? Because she's damn good. But the same thing, it's like she does not regret her degree. Because her degree opened her mind, expanded her mind, gave her the ability to learn, and gave her a base of knowledge by which you get other knowledge. That's the key thing about degrees. Knowledge is like a downhill slope to a certain extent. You have to get a certain amount of knowledge. The more knowledge you get, the easier it is to get new knowledge because you have something to plug that knowledge into. The more you're taught to critically think, the more you are able to unpack things and to actually gain new knowledge. College is here to teach you how to think, not just to merely give you a piece of paper that says, please try and give me more money as I compete with other people, even though that, of course, is very, very valuable. So why should you pursue education? Now, part of the problem, and I will get this, is that in our day and age, a lot of people in education and in the academy seem to have forgotten why they're here and why they do what they do. A lot of them seem to have forgotten that their first priority is not to, one, teach you what to think, but to teach you how to think. Is not to pander to where you're at and your ideas and your preferences and your ideologies that you exist, because I'll be honest with you, I would say I love you all. I don't know most of you, but I love some of you, and I'll tell you this. you're kind of dumb. And of course you're kind of dumb. How long have you been on this earth? What, 20 years? And somehow you've got it all figured out? I've been on this earth 48 years and I'm still realizing I'm kind of dumb. If I'm kind of dumb at 48 years and I'm definitely smarter than you are, then you're definitely kind of dumb. So, understanding that is key. If you anybody tells you, anybody in the academy or anybody else says, it's your job to go out there and change the world, ignore them. It's your job to go out there and improve yourself. Improve yourself before you try and change the world. People have been trying to change the world for a long time and they screwed it up and they've caused a lot of harm because they try and change the world before they improve themselves, before they expand their mind, before they realize that they can see things from different perspectives, before their assumptions about life and humans are challenged, before they realize how little they actually know about life. And that's what education should be doing for you. Not confirming your assumptions, not confirming your biases and your prejudices, but challenging them. Always challenging them. My kids were homeschooled. They come from a homeschool group. A lot of those homeschoolers came through this college, and most of those homeschoolers were religious homeschoolers. And the first thing I told all of them was go and take biological anthropology. Learn evolution. Be challenged. Evolution was the thing that you were supposed to not be taught. Go, learn it. Be challenged in your assumptions. I get students who come into my class, my American history class, and they have a whole bunch of assumptions about how American history went and about how it's easy to understand American history because whites stole Native American land, so forth and so on, and this and that. And whatever I think their assumptions are, I challenge them. And I can, because I'm what's known as an ass. And I can always challenge your assumptions because it's part of the reason I'm a good teacher. And I know I am. So, challenge your assumptions, right? Learn. Not because just so you could get a degree, but learn because you're actually a human being who has so much more to life than just what you do as a job. If you have children or families, I guarantee your knowledge is going to be incredibly valuable for setting them up to be much more successful as citizens, as neighbors, as members of a community, and in their own job. And not only that, in whatever job you take, whatever job you do, you have to build relationships with other human beings. And that means being able to understand multiple perspectives, being able to have the humility to wait till you have tenure before you become an ass. So, you have to be able to engage with them in cultural competency and be able to kind of speak a language that says you have an educated mind, and so do they. I've done a lot of hiring in my time. And I'll tell you, the primary thing that employers look for is, can I work with this person? We can teach them on the job. Do they have a base level of competency? Yes. But then the other thing is, can I work with them? Do they have an educated mind like I do? Do they have some level of humility and tolerance so that they can work with others? This is what education should be teaching you. And I will admit, unfortunately, the academy has lost that, and it wants to pander to you. And that's in part because there's fewer students and the academy has gotten insanely expensive. And so how do they keep their students? Well, they try and pander to you. They try and make it as easy as possible for you so you'll stay. Screw that. That's not what I do. If you've taken my class, you know it's not what I do. I don't bring the education down to your level. I say, you come up to the education's level. Otherwise, you're useless to me. Now, you're not useless in general. You're not useless into life. But to me, whose whole job is to get you to rise your consciousness, your understanding, your wisdom, expand your mind, damn it, yeah, you better rise to that level. Because you're not so damn important that the education is less important than you are. It is more important than you are. Truth, goodness, and beauty This is the foundation of all Western thought and education, is that you're trying to expand your mind. This goes back to Socrates and Plato. We are trying to learn, to understand, to challenge ourselves, to gain knowledge so that we can align our lives a little bit more with truth, a little bit more with goodness, a little bit more with what is beautiful. Art, science, right? Moral philosophy. All these things are the things that are taught in the academy. Truth, goodness, and beauty. Math is a foundational element of the truth of the world. And math can also, ironically enough, even though I never thought so until recently, also be connected to beauty in its own way. Hopefully, he might be able to explain that a little bit. But this is why you go to the academy. This is what I learned. This is why I do the job. Hopefully, you do the same thing, honestly. No matter what you're going to do in your career, and I'll wrap it up with this. No matter what you're going to do in your career, no matter what you're going to do with your future, I promise you this, you are where you should be right now. A bachelor's degree, it might be prohibitively expensive for not a lot of value, depending on what you're trying to do. But an AA in California is still one of the most valuable things you can do with your life. It's cheap, and the professors here at this institution, including Mr. Bonner, are some of the best professors I've worked with. And I was at USC, which is obviously a far, far superior school to that toxic waste dump of an institution known as UCLA. So, they had some insanely good professors, but the professors here care about you. They're pretty damn good. Professors like Davis and Sweardoff and Bonner, professors in the art department. So there's a whole bunch of good professors who care about your education. Get your AA, complete your AA. Go on from there, right? But you're not going to regret this. That's what I have to say. I'll give it up to Mike.
All right, guys. Thank you, Professor Jones. We are kind of hitting it out of the park here for the first Coyote Chat. We have two of our most beloved professors here today with us. And next up on the mic, we've got, or not Mike, we've got Professor Bonner. Give him a for Professor.
Like he might have left, but he's parked there somewhere. I was going to tell Professor Jones that he's 48. At 49, life becomes crystal clear. Everything, to include UCLA. I don't know, he's probably looking at UCLA. All right, so thank you very much. Thanks for coming. I'd heard the last time. Seemed like I know most of you. Whoa, I didn't realize this was on wheels. It seems like the last time we did something. That student government put something on, there was like nobody that showed up. So I brought my wife today to make sure that at least we had one person in the audience, man. But definitely thanks for coming. I'd like to thank the thousands of people on Zoom right now, however many there are, probably thousands. Thanks to the people that put this on, student government, Dr. Tyson Huffman, and everybody else involved. And I am going to say I'm honored to have been on stage. Every time I want to mention him, he leaves the room. I was telling Dr. Jones that we're the two best looking professors at Cerro Coso, so I'm glad they went by. They went by looks. But I liked all three prompts, and I did write some notes on them. The three prompts were: what about my college experience could benefit you? What advice can I give you regarding transitioning to the workforce? And the third one was anything in my area of expertise or whatever I want to talk about. So I thought I would kind of throw in leadership. I'm a believer in studying leadership, and I'm going to probably take this off. But so I thought I'd talk about all three, and starting with college. You know, if I look back at my time in college, it was a great time. Maybe I blocked out all the negativity, all the bad professors, but I look back and I had a lot of fun, a lot of great memories. But when I say a lot of fun doing math homework, a lot of fun doing engineering homework, I probably would have had a little more fun, but more regular fun. I roomed with the football players my first semester, and there were a lot of girls. probably would have talked to girls more. I think that's probably one thing I would do differently. Gotta be careful, my wife's over there. When they would talk to me, I would say, I don't have time for your shenanigans. I'm here to learn. And I guarantee you, I said that a dozen times or more my first year. My school had a bowling alley. And I never used it. I never bowled. My school had a bowling alley. They had a class. You could take a class. You could get credit. You could get 2 units for taking a bowling class. I took a 2-unit class on Laplace transforms. Not quite the same thing. So life choices, I guess. But what I'll say is, I wish that I went to a pretty good school. It was a college town. It had a lot of amenities, it had a lot more than Cerro Coso has. It was a 4-year school. Make use of what your school has to offer you. That's something that I wish I had done a little bit more. One thing I did well, though, to include Laplace transforms is I learned and I focused on learning. Even more so than grades, I focused on learning. That's why you're here, right? And I think Dr. Jones talked about it as well. This is the time to expand your mind. This is the time to learn. This is the time to benefit from those around you, not just the professors that you sync up with, these professors that you like, the ones that you can learn from the easiest, but those around you as well, right? Your peers, your fellow students. Learn how to learn. I showed up at college. I did not have great studying skills. I did not have mediocre studying skills. Atrocious would be a good word describing how well I studied. It took me a long time to figure that out. But find out who the study nerds are. Learn from them. We even have a class, College 101. You can take that class and learn some things. I'll tell you this too. I never doubted myself. I never doubted. I'm not a self-doubter, but I certainly never doubted myself in college. I might have doubted other people, but I didn't doubt myself. If you are somebody that is doubting your situation, you doubt yourself. My message to you is don't give up. Don't give up, right? You are worth all of your time and energy. I'll say that again. You are worth all of your energy. Say it soon. You are worth all your time and energy. Don't give up. Right? This is a time in your life where you want to push through and succeed at an AA degree, a 4-year degree, whatever your current goals are. Don't get frustrated by obstacles that get in your way. I couldn't get this class this semester. I got a lousy professor. Don't get frustrated by lousy professors. In life, you're going to have lousy bosses. You're going to have all kinds of bosses, and you're going to have to learn to navigate those waters. You're going to have to learn to navigate having a great boss and then having a lousy one and then a great one again. Sometimes that means you find a different job, right? But that's probably not the answer every time. And sometimes it means you're going to drop a class and find a different professor next semester. But that probably shouldn't be the answer every time. That's an opportunity for you to learn and figure that out. Clubs. I say join clubs. A student government that put this on. That's an active club here. There's a lot of opportunities for people to join and participate there. I didn't join a lot of clubs in college. There's professional organizations, and I personally don't know of any here. There might be, but when I was an engineering student, there was IEEE was an organization for electrical engineers, and I told them the same thing I told girls. I don't have time for your shenanigans. I'm here to learn. I wished later on in life when I was joining IEEE that I had been a member since I was a student. A lot of benefits there, a lot of opportunities to learn, make good connections, and even potentially, those are great connections for jobs at some point in your life to include when you graduate college. I'll say seek internships. I was a hiring manager for a long time. My preference for hiring was I'd hire interns. So internship that turns into a job is typically a path. And I'm going to tell you, most employers in my field looked at that as their number one path. So also realize that your professors, as well as any bosses you have right now, might You might be asking them for a letter of recommendation. So give them something to say, right? You don't have to be the top student in my class, but give me a reason to want to write you. I'm realizing now I have to write 2 letters of recommendation this weekend, but give me a reason to want to write you the best letter of recommendation I've ever written. I'll say most of all, enjoy college. I enjoyed it looking back. I think I could have enjoyed it more. Enjoy college, do great. And then when you transition to the workforce, that's, I guess, my next topic. I had a lot of job offers. Only one of them that I seriously considered came from my school's career, whatever it's called, career department, right? Every school has a department that puts on career fairs and things like that. I spent most of my energy outside of that. And I'll say that don't limit the rest of your career, the rest of your life, really, based on what your career center has to offer, right? Go out and look at what you want to do in life. Contact companies direct. Go to other career fairs. I would recruit at UCLA, and 10% of the students came from another school, even, right? So go to other colleges' career fairs. When considering offers, another life choice. I just remember in my day, maybe it's generational, but in my day, people went to whatever job paid the most. They didn't even look at benefits. So it wasn't even really which job paid the most. It was just what the salary was, right? Look at benefits, right? You're going to want those. But also look at, do I want to work for this company, right? I mean, maybe it's a company you couldn't even hold your head high working for them, right? Don't go to work at a place like that. But do I want to work with these people? You go on an interview, you meet the people. Do I want to work here? Location, right? Do I want to live there? Do I want to spend the next however many years of my life living here in this particular job? And then the things that I kind of look at, am I going to be happy in that job, right? What's the potential for advancement is a great question coming out of college. What's the potential for variety and change in a job? I worked at Edwards Air Force Base for 34 years for the federal government. 34 years. I had 13 different jobs. I had some jobs for 12 months. I had some jobs for 5. I never had a job for more than 5.5 years. A lot of change, and change is what keeps you interested. Change is what keeps you focused on, the positive things in your, whatever it is you do, whatever organization you're with. Change is what helps you learn and continue to grow. Variety. I look at my job here. I'm also very, very grateful, very passionate about my role here. I teach on this campus. I teach online. I teach in the prisons. I got to teach a class at the Tehachapi campus for the first time in, 6 or 7 years now, since before I was full-time. If any one of those things went away tomorrow, I would still have a pretty balanced job that offers a lot of variety, right? So I'm grateful for that. There are people here that only do one of those things. They only teach on ground at IWD, right? So IWD, Ridgecrest. Having a job that provides variety, offers change, that's something that I would look for. And will I learn in this job? Will I learn and will I grow? You don't want to be 10 years out of college and haven't learned anything in the job that you're in. My opinion. So realize you're going to mess up on the job. You're going to make mistakes. Admit it, own it. Ask for advice, ask for help, fix it, move on. I guarantee you, that's probably one of the 3 biggest mistakes I see people make is not owning the mistakes they make early on. Stay out of office drama. There's a lot of that. Talk about other people as if they're in the room with you. So we have a way of living and existing as we grow up. And then all of a sudden we're in an office environment, or I use office as an example. It doesn't have to be, but, figure out the politics there and how to navigate those. And I guarantee you, talking about other people as they're in the room with you is a good way to do that. Find mentors. Find a mentor that's maybe been in your area. Maybe he doesn't work in that area anymore. maybe in a different part of the company. That's definitely somebody that can help you figure out your early career. Find the key people in your organization, the people that make a difference. Find the difference makers where you work, and hang out with them, learn from them, offer to help. That's how you become a difference maker in the organization. So ramp up, another one, ramp up self-improvement. So look at your strengths as applied to that organization. Look at your strengths and continue to grow those so that you stand out in those areas. Look at your weaknesses and improve them just enough to not hold you back. You want your weaknesses to improve to the point that they're not liabilities for you. Always have an idea what your next job will be in that organization. So if your job went away tomorrow, or maybe more accurately, if you kind of decided, you woke up one day and said, you know what, I've had enough here. This is it for me. I'm not happy anymore in this job. It's okay, but maybe I'll be happier doing something else. Think about what that might be. And then as you're still happy in your job, learn how to be qualified in that job. So when the time comes, you are qualified. You're extremely qualified, and hopefully the most qualified. Study leadership. So that's my last topic. Study leadership. Leadership is not management. Management is management. Leadership is you being the best version of yourself. All right. So you heard Dr. Jones say some similar things. Read leadership books. Never stop learning. I'm gonna quote Joni Mitchell, life is for learning. I was going to quote Joni Mitchell for the old people, Tyson, but I don't see any old people here. So on Zoom, to the old people, the thousands of old people on Zoom. Hello from America, by the way. Get a master's degree and get it while you're young, especially if you're technical. All right, if you're in a technical field, get a master's degree while you're young. I've watched a few people and I admire the crap out of them. You know, that in their 40s go back and try to get a master's degree in something like electrical engineering or aerospace engineering. And I'm like, wow, how much of that math do you remember? Because that's something that tends to deteriorate unless you're using it. So get that while you're young. Ideally, you find somebody to pay for it. Ideally, you find a company that will pay for it. And do that. If you're waffling between an MBA and a technical master's, get the technical master's. You can always get an MBA. I could wake up tomorrow and go get an MBA. So one other thing I tend to do is seek adventure in your career. Adventure is whatever that means, whether it's the cool part of the organization over there, they're working on a really cool project, whether it's that they're going to send you traveling on a particular project. But adventure is how you grow. It's how you stay interested. It's how you continue to learn. One other thought is I reassess my job and my life annually, once a year. These days, I tend to do it after the spring semester. I used to do it over the holidays. Sit back. I list all the good and bad things about my job. I remind myself what I'm grateful for. I remind myself what it is that's irritating me about my job. And then I figure out, okay, what can I do to change that? And I've had that in my short time at Cerro Coso. I've had some things where I go, you know what, maybe Cerro Coso is not for me, right? And then I kind of got less emotional. I backed down off of that and said, okay, well, what can I change? Maybe I just don't want to do this aspect of my job, right? Let's say it's like, maybe I just don't want to teach online anymore. Maybe I just don't want to teach attached to campus anymore. Whatever it is. I was able to figure out how to continue the role that I was doing, get more enjoyment out of it, and expose myself to that negativity a little bit less. So instead of maybe being exposed to it 8 to 10 times a semester and it pissing me off every other week, I'm exposed to it about once a year now. And that's an easy thing to swallow. So it's also a good time to update your goals. I have a 1 and 2 year goal. I have a 1 and 2 year plan for goals. I have a 5 to 10 year. For me, that's a long-term plan. I would recommend having a 1 to 2 year, if that's short term for you. If not, have a short-term plan and a 1 to 2 year plan, then have a long-term plan. Reassess those goals every year. That should be a living document. I asked my friend what he thought his life expectancy was. He says, I don't know, but my goals go out to age 90. Right, so they got, my life expectancy is at least that long. I'll just tell a quick story about how I wound up here. There's a great football coach, University of Alabama, not named Nick Saban. He won a lot of championships in the 1970s. His name was Paul Bear Bryant. And Bear Bryant had a lot of quotes, but he had one. It's not the will to win that counts. It's the will to prepare to win. And that's where most people fail. They fail in preparing for what it is that's important to them in life. I'm not saying you got to prepare, okay, for the next calculus exam, although you probably need to prepare for the next calculus exam. But for a job interview, right? That's something, if you want that job, that's something you need to prepare for, right? I'm not kidding, dozens, if not hundreds of hours on the jobs that I have wanted in life, right? So I was driving down the highway once on the Central Coast. I wasn't driving, my wife was driving. I was staring out the window and she said, there's some buildings there. She said, that's Cuesta College. And I said, what's Cuesta College? And I said, okay, I'll buy it. Clown or barber? I'd never heard of Cuesta College. She says, no, it's a community college. Wouldn't it be cool if you worked there someday? We could live on the beach. And I thought about that conversation a few weeks later, and I was like, teaching after I retire someday, and retiring at that point meant still another 5 years from now. Retiring meant retire from the federal government as an engineer and then go teach full time. That was a dream. It wasn't even a dream, it was just a thought. How do you turn that dream into reality? Because most people have dreams, right? I broke it down. I made it a goal. I broke it down into milestones. I researched it. I figured out, what do I need to do? What do I need to put on my resume that's not there today, so that when I'm interviewing for a job, they go, absolutely, this is the guy. And I was able to ask for, I was able to pounce on some opportunities that presented themselves. But every opportunity that presented itself, I then recognized, because I was focused on turning that dream into reality, right? So the opportunity came to teach Calc 2. I hadn't looked at a Calc 2 problem in 2 decades. And it took me 1 second to say, absolutely, I'll teach Calc 2. And people who had taken Calc 2 classes a lot more recently than me were afraid to teach it. But I said, absolutely, I'll do it. And it was a lot of work, and I had to take time off of my day job. But I wound up teaching Calc 2. It went great because I put the energy and effort into it. And now it's on my resume. And the other thing on my resume was I helped out a college that really needed me, in short notice. So those are things that you can put into a thought, to turning a dream into a reality, right? Because if you're sitting here today thinking, what am I going to do when I graduate? What job am I going to get? Right? Research those jobs, but make sure that you understand what they're looking for so that you're the most qualified. Final thought for you guys is go out there, be the best version of yourself. Always strive to be a better version of you tomorrow than you are today. That's something that I don't necessarily think about daily, but I think about weekly. And then if you've taken my classes, definitely make time for a Dr. Pepper time to time. And I'll say this, thanks for coming today. Go out there, be great, do great things. You guys are going to be awesome. Thanks for your time today. Thank you for your time on Zoom, the thousands of you that dialed in. Appreciate you. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, that concludes the first, the third and